There are moments in life when silence is the highest form of wisdom. And then there are moments when silence is nothing more than weakness disguised as peace. Stoicism teaches us the power of calm restraint, the value of keeping our mouths shut when words would only create noise. But it also warns us about something most people miss. Silence can become a silent killer. It can destroy your integrity, erode your values, and steal your peace without you even realizing it. So today, we're going to talk about 7 specific situations when a Stoic must never remain silent. 7 critical moments where your voice, guided by reason and courage, becomes your greatest weapon. These aren't suggestions. These are tests of your character, your boundaries, and your ability to live by virtue instead of fear. Pay attention, because each one of these will reveal who you really are. Marcus Aurelius wrote something that cuts straight to the bone. What is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bee. Think about what that means. If someone around you is being mistreated, disrespected, or taken advantage of, and you choose to say nothing, you're not staying neutral. You're not being peaceful. You become complicit in that act. Stoicism is not passive acceptance of whatever happens around you. It's rational action in the face of what's wrong. Silence in the face of injustice isn't peace. It's cowardice dressed up as wisdom. And deep down, you know the difference. You don't need to shout. You don't need to throw punches or start a war. But you absolutely need to stand firm. A calm, rational voice that speaks against wrong is more powerful than 1,000 angry voices screaming into the void. The Stoic stands for what's right, even when it's unpopular, even when it's risky, even when everyone else is looking the other way. Because justice isn't about your comfort, it's about your courage. And if you can't speak up when you see someone being hurt, what does that say about your principles? Stoicism teaches you to control your emotions, but it does not, and never has, asked you to suppress your dignity. There's a massive difference between being calm and being a doormat. If someone disrespects you, manipulates you, or constantly pushes past your limits, and you say nothing, you're not being stoic. You're inviting more of the same behavior. You're teaching them that you're an easy target. Epictetus said something profound. You decide the value of your own opinion. Your silence in these moments gives all the power to the person crossing your boundaries. They learn that they can walk all over you without consequence. Speak up, not with rage, not with drama, but with absolute clarity. This is not acceptable. This ends now. Boundaries aren't about protecting your pride. They're about protecting your peace. And a Stoic silence should never, ever be mistaken for submission. You're not here to please everyone. You're not here to be convenient for people who don't respect you. You're here to live in accordance with reason. And reason tells you that self-respect is the foundation of every virtue you'll ever build. Truth is sacred in Stoic philosophy. Seneca said it plainly, truth never perishes. But here's the problem. When falsehood spreads and you stay silent, the lie becomes the loudest voice in the room. And once a lie gets loud enough, people start believing it. Whether it's gossip at work, misinformation spreading online, or a false accusation against someone, your silence validates that deception. Your silence gives it permission to grow. A Stoic doesn't engage in petty drama, but a Stoic also doesn't allow truth to die quietly while lies parade around as facts. Speak calmly. Speak factually. Speak directly. Truth doesn't need aggression to survive, it just needs courage. Remember this principle. The wise man speaks only when his words improve the silence. But when silence feeds lies, when silence allows deception to flourish, speech stops being optional. It becomes a duty. In relationships, at work, in friendships. There will be times when your efforts are constantly ignored, when your contributions are assumed, when people expect you to always be available, always giving, always silent about your own needs. If you say nothing, resentment grows silently in your chest like a cancer, and eventually it destroys everything. Stoicism teaches you not to expect recognition for every good deed. That's true. But it does not ask you to tolerate ongoing disrespect. It doesn't demand that you become invisible while others take and take and take. If someone keeps assuming you'll always be there, always sacrificing, always putting yourself last, it's time to speak. A Stoic's voice is calm but firm. I value what I do, and I need to be treated with the same respect. Speaking up isn't arrogance, it's awareness. Here's a hard truth. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, and when you stay silent while being taken for granted, you're teaching them that your time, your energy, and your effort mean nothing. This is where Stoicism separates the wise from the weak. There will be moments when you're pressured to do something that goes against your core values. Maybe it's at work. Maybe it's in social situations. Maybe it's even with family members who should know better. Marcus Aurelius laid it out clearly. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. But what happens when you say nothing at all? When you just go along with something that violates everything you believe in? Then you allow corruption to guide your actions. You allow fear or convenience to override your integrity. And that's how good people become complicit in bad things. Stoicism is built on virtue. It's the highest good, the only thing that truly matters. When your integrity is on the line, silence is surrender. Speak up, even if it costs you approval, even if it makes you unpopular, even if it makes things uncomfortable. You can rebuild a reputation. You can recover from being disliked. But you can never rebuild a broken character. Once you compromise on what you truly believe in, you've lost something you can't get back. Remember, virtue before validation. Always. Fear loves silence. It feeds on it. It grows stronger every time you refuse to speak up because you're afraid of the consequences. When you're afraid to ask for help, afraid to express your feelings, afraid to stand up for yourself, silence becomes your prison. And the longer you stay quiet, the thicker those prison walls become. Stoicism teaches us something liberating. Fear exists only in our judgment of a situation, not in the situation itself. Epictetus said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Think about how true that is. The things you're afraid to say, the conversations you're avoiding, the truth you're hiding. They're almost always worse in your head than they would be in reality. If you stay silent out of fear, you give that fear power over your entire life. Break the silence with honesty. Ask for what you need. Speak your truth, even if your voice shakes while you do it. The moment you use your voice, fear begins to shrink. Stoicism isn't about being emotionless, it's about being fearless through the use of reason. And silence should serve your peace, not your panic. A Stoic understands that wisdom is not something you hoard for yourself. It's something you share. If your experience, your struggle, your perspective can help someone else rise, staying silent is actually selfish. There are people out there who need your story. They need your lessons. They need to know they're not alone in what they're going through. Your strength could be exactly what pulls someone else out of darkness. Marcus Aurelius didn't write his meditations for fame or recognition. He wrote them to remind himself, and ultimately us, how to live with purpose. He shared his wisdom because he understood that wisdom shared is wisdom multiplied. If your words can guide someone, if your truth can light someone's path, speak. Not with ego, not to sound impressive, but with genuine empathy. The Stoic's voice is steady, grounded, and meaningful. Not loud, but clear. Not aggressive, but honest. The world doesn't need more noise, it needs more truth. And sometimes your truth is exactly what someone else needs to hear. Let's bring this all together. Here are the 7 moments when silence is not virtue, but weakness. When you witness injustice. When your boundaries are being crossed. When lies are spreading. when you're being taken for granted, when your values are threatened, when fear is keeping you silent, and when your words can help others. In all of these moments, silence betrays you. It betrays your principles, your integrity, and your purpose. Stoicism is not about closing your mouth and accepting everything that happens. It's about opening your mouth with wisdom when wisdom demands it. Silence is incredibly powerful when you use it to maintain your inner peace, to avoid pointless arguments, to conserve your energy for what matters. But silence becomes dangerous when it protects what's wrong, when it enables harm, when it comes from fear instead of wisdom. Speak when truth demands it. Speak when your soul aches to be heard. Speak when silence would mean surrendering your self-respect. The Stoics lived by the idea that courage is the highest form of wisdom. And sometimes courage simply means saying what must be said, even when your voice shakes, even when you're afraid of the consequences. Never confuse peace with passivity. Never mistake calmness for cowardice, and never let fear silence your principles. The Stoic stands firm, speaks truth, and acts with integrity. You don't need to shout to be heard. You just need to stand your ground. Speak not to be right, but to be righteous. Speak not to win arguments, but to stay true to yourself. Speak not to impress others, but to express what's virtuous. Because in the end, the world may forget your silence. People may not remember the times you said nothing, but they will never forget the voice that stood for truth when everyone else was quiet. So the next time life tests your courage, remember this. Silence is golden only when truth is already being spoken through your actions. But when silence hides injustice, dishonor, or fear, it turns to rust. It corrodes everything you stand for. Be silent when words are a waste, but speak when silence is a sin. That is Stoicism in action. That is strength in its purest form. That is how you live with integrity in a world that constantly tests whether you really believe what you say you believe. The choice is yours. Will you speak? Or will you stay silent and regret it later? A Stoic knows the answer, and now, so do you.